I'm a person that looks forward more than looks back.
When I started 50 years ago as an entrepreneur, the word entrepreneur I don't think existed.
The airline's the brainchild of Richard Branson, the 34-year-old millionaire head of the Virgin Records empire.
I think an entrepreneur is somebody that creates something that makes a positive difference to other people's lives. I'm a born optimist, I'm a very positive person. Both my children have inherited that from me. And I was very lucky, I had a very happy childhood. One of the things I enjoy the most is teaching people to swim.
You shouldn't sing after this, you just go.
I find it quite an easy thing to do, and it's wonderfully satisfying to help them stand on their own 2 feet.
Oh, brilliant. Why do you have so much money?
The exciting thing about learning to be an entrepreneur is that later on in life you can be creating not-for-profit businesses, not-for-profit things to try to deal with the problems of the world. I've been lucky enough to help create the Elders, which is a wonderful group of people that are trying to tackle conflict resolution issues in the world.
The Elders can become a fiercely independent and robust force for good.
The Oceanic Elders to try to tackle the problems of the oceans. The Carbon War to try to tackle climate change. My attitude in life is to give everything I can to solve the problem. Trying to go to space has been tough, very tough. The old saying, it's not rocket science. Well, obviously, if you're trying to go to space, it is rocket science. I get enormous satisfaction trying to achieve something that has never been achieved before. My favourite phrase to all the people around me is, screw it, just get on and do it.
Hello, sir. Welcome. Well, our theme today is anything is possible, and I think we found just the right keynote speaker. What do you think? Here he is. Let's give him a big round of applause. Well, let's start with a little bit. Let's start with a little bit of perspective, Richard. You grew up in a small town, Shamley Green, England. Are you ever surprised at yourself? Do you ever look around and say, wow, I did all of this, I'm pretty good?
Look, I think everybody in this room can pinch themselves for the lives we've created. People who come from Vietnam, from all over the world to be here, and we're all very fortunate. And sometimes I wake up in the morning and before I open my eyes, I just think I've had the most incredible dream. I just can't believe it's true. And then I open my eyes and it is true. So I appreciate every minute of my life. I've been very, very fortunate.
Gratitude is so important. What exactly is it, in your opinion, that takes someone from humble beginnings to being a thought leader? Is it confidence? Is it ambition? What is
it? I'm quite passionate about things, and I was dyslexic and hopeless at school, conventional schoolwork. When I was 15, the Vietnamese War was going on. It was a dreadful war. Some people's families may have been affected in this room. And decided to leave school to start a magazine to campaign against the war. I wasn't ever thinking I'd like to be a business person, but if you're going to run a magazine, you have to start worrying about the distribution, you know, the advertising, and you have to try to make sure you pay the bills. So I became an entrepreneur by default, and ever since then, if I see something that I feel is not being done well, I'll jump in and try to do it better than it's been done.
Yes, I know. You've done very well and started so many businesses over the years. But do you think it matters where you were born or how you were raised? And I ask that because many of the business people I've interviewed, if they come from humble beginnings or blue-collar background, I'm from a blue-collar family, so I understand that. Sometimes it gets in your head that, oh, maybe I shouldn't speak out. For some people, it's really heavy stuff. What's your advice there?
Yeah, I think you should follow your dreams. I mean, my father was persuaded by his dad to become a lawyer because his father was a lawyer, and he regretted it all his life. And you know, it's so much more exciting to create your own thing. And the wonderful thing I think about this particular company and all the companies that work within it is that, you know, so many people in this room are their own bosses. You know, they're building their own companies. They can build other companies on top of these companies. And I think everybody in this room knows how much more satisfying that is than working in a conventional job or working for somebody else.
It takes a certain amount of courage to do that, to work for yourself. You have a reputation as someone who's absolutely fearless, but I know there were times in your life when you felt fear. Nick, let's take a video, Don't Look Down.
I saw my life flash before my eyes. It was just me, standing on top of the capsule, looking down at the water. I wrote a note to the kids, telling them how much I loved them. And then I prepared to jump.
Richard Branson's made a career out of creating tradition and has a flair for self-promotion.
Virgin were getting big and bigger, and I just had to use myself to get Virgin on the front pages rather than a little anecdote on the back pages. I saw this incredible challenge to be the first people to cross the Atlantic in a hot air balloon. The prize was fabulous. Richard's words were hell. Let's do it.
He has great faith in other people. Misplaced in my view.
6 people have tried and finally perished.
The pop music millionaire is almost ready for his latest challenge.
I've been bringing him up all his life not to share his fear.
My mother had enormous expectations. I had to do some pretty extraordinary things in my life.
All people stay behind the barricades.
Being dyslexic at school, I would get nothing right. Nothing.
The first ever transatlantic hike and a hot air balloon.
I'd left school at 15. I had completely failed. I suppose I had a lot to prove. We headed up to 30,000 feet. It's beautifully serene. As long as nothing interrupts that serenity, there's nothing more magical.
This is Pacific Fire. I think we're in serious trouble.
Someone had taken the balloon and dragged it.
We were completely out of control.
And then everything was black.
My goodness. You thought you were going to do everything. Tell us.
Yeah, I have great difficulty saying no in life, which can get you into a lot of trouble. So if somebody says no one's crossed the Atlantic in a hot air balloon, why don't we try to be the first, or the Pacific, or going around the world? I just think, I can't possibly watch somebody else do it on television. I'd love to do it myself. It's resulted in my new book, Finding My Virginity, I talk about the 65 narrow misses of death that I've had. And 65. So I passed 9 in my 20s, I think. But fortunately, I've got a very friendly star above me that seems to keep an eye on me. I've somehow got through them, and now I've got grandchildren. I can sit them on my knee and tell them tell them granddad's stories, and I've got lots of stories to tell.
You must be the coolest grandfather ever with your leather jacket and your cool stories out there. I know that you've been absolutely fearless when it comes to the business arena. You may have some fear for personal life on occasions, but fearless. VA, for example, you had a bad experience with them. So you went out and started another airline. So that's not a normal response, by the way. You know that, right? That's not a normal response to start an airline because you had a bad experience. Most people would write a letter, make a phone call. Tell us about your process, your thought process.
So we had a record company that was the #1 independent record company in the world. And I was quite young. I was 28 years old. And I was trying to get to the Virgin Islands. And I was in Puerto Rico, and the airline I was on decided they didn't have a full plane and told us all to come back the next day. And I was damned if I was going to come back the next day. I wanted to get there that night because I had a girlfriend waiting. So I went to the back of the airport, I hired a plane, I got a blackboard, and as a joke I wrote Virgin Airlines one way to the Virgin Islands, and I went out to all the people who'd been bumped, and I filled up my first plane. And when I got to the Virgin Islands, the next day I rang Boeing and said, do you have any second-hand 747s for sale? And they said, who are you? And I said, my name's Richard Branson. I've got the Rolling Stones, I got the Sex Pistols. And there was a long pause, and I suspect this won't translate for a lot of people in the room, but the guy from Boeing said, all right, look, I'll send a salesperson to see you. We do have one second-hand 747 for sale, but only if you promise you don't use the name Virgin for your airline. He said, nobody will travel on an airline called Virgin because they'll assume it won't go the whole way. Anyway, I promised, they sent the salesman, we got the second-hand 747, and then we decided to stick with Virgin. And 35 years later, people are still going the whole way.
I absolutely love that you jumped in there. A lot of us, I think, we have to be fully prepared before we make the leap. You just jump in and you figure it all out later.
Yes, I mean, I'm not a believer in getting accountants in to do the figures if you're starting a new business. If we'd got accountants in, they would have told us every reason why we shouldn't do it. But if you can create a company or an airline that is the best in the world, and Virgin Atlantic, I think is still, oh, actually Emirates are very good as well, but Virgin Atlantic and Emirates are still the two best in the world. If you can create the best, even if you're much smaller, the best normally survives. And you know, British Airways had 300 planes, we had one plane. And you know, they threw everything to try to put us out of business. But because people loved the airline, and because we innovated and we had staff that were smiling and happy and enjoyed working for the company, we survived despite you know, this big campaign they had to get drivers out of business. It was quite funny actually, because I mean, it wasn't funny at the time, but they launched something called the British Airways Dirty Tricks campaign against us, and they, you know, would be tapping into our computer information, bringing our passengers, pretending to be from Virgin, and then telling our passengers we've got a delayed flight, and then switching people over. So we took them to court. We won the biggest libel damages in history, and we distributed the money to all our staff. It was Christmas time, and it became known as the British Airways Christmas bonus, and it was fun.
I love it. Since we brought up, we're talking about VA, and let's talk about competition. How do you cope with it as a business person? Because it can be very easy to get riled up and become litigious, and that was really damaging what they were doing to you. How do you approach competition when sometimes it's downright slanderous or libelous? How do you deal with that?
I think with competition you should compete very hard in the daytime, and you should remain friends with your competitors at night time. And and that's how we, that's how we are in business. And I think life's too short to fall out with anybody. I mean, even after the court case with British Airways, I invited Sir Colin Marshall, who was chief executive of British Airways, to lunch, and I shook hands and said, okay, let's put that behind us. And that applies, I think, to your personal life. If you have a problem, with an ex-partner or a friend, there's always two sides to the story. And I think you want to try in life to go through life having not fallen out with anybody, making up is a good idea.
You're a class act. I think that's so classy. I love the gratitude and I love that. I want to talk about how you decided this idea.
I was going to say, my mum, who you said you admired earlier.
She was tough on him. She made you walk. She dropped you off a few miles from home and made you walk home when you were 4, right?
So when I was 7, 8, 9 years old, if I ever said anything ill about anybody, she would send me to the mirror and she'd make me stand in front of the mirror for 10 minutes. And I didn't like looking at myself for 10 minutes. It's not very pleasant. And basically, she was trying to say to me, look, this reflects incredibly badly on you, the fact that you should think ill about somebody. And so if I ever hear people gossiping about somebody, I'll either walk away, or defend the person. Because I think, most people have got, if you look at the best of people, you'll find that 99.9% of people are fantastic, and everybody's got their faults, but it's not worth seeking out those faults.
True, we all have our good side. Richard, let's talk about how you decided that this idea is worth it. You've invested in Hyperloop One. It's a pod-based transportation system, and it could change eventually the way everybody moves around. Could you cue Hyperloop?
Going up to Devlin for the first time was seeing just unbridled opportunity. You saw the desert completely bare. You saw in your head, in your mind's eye, what we were going to put there. I felt really confident because I have a tremendous confidence in the people that I work with and the people on the team that I help build.
You've got teams from mechanical design, teams from computer engineering, and people who've worked on massive motor systems, massive rocket ships, and aerospace, aerodynamic engineering.
This thing that started as a sketch, an idea, and then lived on this computer is now real, and it's welded and it's bolted, and you can put your hands on it. And then we actually assemble all the parts onto it and set it up to site, and you flip the power switch and it just comes to life. That's really the engineering dream, to get to see that whole process through.
We broke all the Hyperloop speed records. To think we did all this in 10 months. We proved to the whole world that we can build safely, quickly, efficiently, and prove the technology works. This is just the beginning.
This company, like others in the Virgin family, has insatiable curiosity and the grit to get it done.
I can't wait to see what we do next as a team.
Now, the reason I wanted to show this video is because it's an incredibly exciting technology, but it is not an easy business. There are public policy concerns. There are incredibly advanced, expensive technology, but yet you just jump right on in there. Why?
Yeah, look, it's interesting in life. You start, with a very small business, and then you realize that you can strive for something a bit bigger, and then a bit bigger, and then a bit bigger, and then ultimately you realize the sky's not the limit, and we'll come on to that later. But with the Hyperloop One technology, goes back quite a way. I mean, most people here won't be old enough to remember those tubes in some shops where things were shot shot up using magnetic force around a shop when people paid their money. So, you know, we've got these wonderful engineers who felt that they could develop a system that traveled, where people could travel between 500 and 1,000 miles an hour. And I just came from India yesterday, where we're going to hopefully be doing one of our first routes between Mumbai and Pune. Here in Dubai, we're talking about there's a new airport going to be built the opposite side of the city to the current airport. If we can whisk people through a tunnel to the new airport in 10 minutes or 5 minutes, we can then, these pods can take them straight to their gate, so they don't have to go through customs again or worry about luggage again. The pods just take them straight to their gate, they get out, they get straight on the plane, and we can have a pod, you know, going to every gate. And that's the kind of exciting thing that we're talking about.
So your thresholds and challenges have to be higher and higher with each successive year.
It doesn't have to be, but I think that, again, next year is our 50th anniversary of the Virgin, and you learn that, you know, if you can do one thing well, you can do anything. And sometimes actually, you know, having a big step is possible, and as long as you feel that what you're doing is unique and special.
Fantastic. Well, let's talk about the next big step, which is Virgin Galactic. I was just looking at what it's standing before. They expect your stock to go up 700% because you're going to have a monopoly, possibly, on space tourism. We have a quick video we'd like to do for you to show everyone what all the fuss is about. Let's cue Virgin Galactic.
The exploration of space will go ahead. And it is one of the great adventures of all time.
Space community, welcome to space. Kathy Bates, $1 billion view.
Humans have managed to learn so much about the universe in such a relatively small time frame compared with the life of the universe. That was always very incredible to me.
Our mission is to lower the barrier to getting into work so that businesses and entrepreneurs, universities and countries can bring capabilities into space that help us here on Earth.
As a species, we've travelled around our planet at the same speed for the last 50 to 60 years. And Spaceship 2 is going to be the first space plane that on a regular basis flies humans faster than 3 times the speed of sound.
By bringing hundreds and eventually thousands of people into space, they'll get a different perspective on life and on our future. That will have a profound impact on how humanity faces its toughest problems.
Together, we can make space accessible in a way that has only been dreamt of before now. And by doing that, we can truly bring positive change to life on Earth.
I'd love to go into space. I think it'd be nothing nicer. So if you're building a spacecraft, I'd love to come with you on it.
I love that soundbite. I think that just sums up exactly who you are. You just jump in and do it. So you're very close to your first commercial space flight. Are you going to be on board?
Of course.
When is it going to take place?
What's that?
When will it happen?
So we've had an extraordinary year. We've put 5 of our test pilots into space over the last few months, and actually we're the first space line to put astronauts into space since 2009 on American soil. And so next year I plan to go up and we'll then start taking the many people who've actually already paid to go into space up. And if it goes as well as we expect, then we'll build more and more spaceships. And one day, I suspect quite a few people in this room, will be able to afford going to space.
Absolutely. Right now, it's going to be exciting, isn't it?
How many of you would like to go into space?
Can I go with you?
A lot of people.
So right now, it's $250,000 a seat, and there's a long queue. And air travel was the same when it started. It was expensive, only a few people could afford it, but then eventually it did become more affordable and accessible for most people. How long until we're there for space?
Well, yeah, so commercial airline travel in the 1920s was about the same price as what we're equivalent of what we're charging now to go to space, and then over the years it's come right down. So most people, well, many people can afford to travel on airplanes now. And I think the same will happen with commercial space travel. It won't come down as low, but it will come down to a level that I do really think most people in this room who are running their own businesses one day will be able to afford to go.
Very excited. I'm going to put you on the spot. These are all business owners, so they're picturing themselves in space with you. That's what's happening. I'm going to put you on the spot, and we're going to do a quick fire round of questions. So all of the different countries here submitted questions. We've selected 10. And you have 10 seconds or less to answer each question.
Where do I see the questions?
Well, they'll be behind us here, but hopefully you'll be able to hear. Okay, so we'll look at them here on the screen. So first question is from Thailand. What is the key to being a successful entrepreneur?
I think being a good motivator of people, getting a great team of people around you who believe in what you're doing, praising, not criticizing, and enjoying what you're doing, I think, and making sure all the people who work for you enjoy what they're doing as well.
I love your focus on people. That's fantastic. Next question is from Japan. What is the biggest mistake or failure you have ever experienced, and how did you cope with it?
I've had lots and lots of things that haven't worked out. I would say we tried taking on Coca-Cola once. We thought that Virgin had become the #1 brand in the world. The product exploded, everything looked fantastic, and then Coke had bigger guns than us. And they arrived in the UK with hit teams and money, and all our Virgin Cola disappeared from the shelves. So we bowed out gracefully and moved on to other things.
Can't win them all. Indonesia, how do you manage stress when starting a new business, and how do you overcome the challenges of that?
I think the key for all of us is to find time for ourselves. If you can keep fit and healthy, you can get rid of stress. If you don't look after your body and you don't keep fit and healthy, stress can get you down. And so it may take an hour and a half, 2 hours a day to look after yourself, but you just got to find that time, and you'll miraculously find that you won't get stressed, however hard you're working. And I find fun ways of getting healthy. I kite surf, I surf, I play a lot of tennis, go for bike rides. So find fun ways of trying to keep yourself healthy.
Very good advice, because so many of us put that on the back burner. From Singapore, have you ever thought about passing your business on to your children?
I would love my kids to oversee Virgin one day, because I think having having your family, having a figurehead in businesses is good. But most of the money that we make from Virgin is spent on good causes. This morning we were at the Virgin Mega Store where we launched a project to help sell products from refugees and refugee camps. And my kids, their main interest is running our foundation and reinvesting the money in a positive way. So, I don't feel any need for my kids to get enormously wealthy on the back of Virgin, and nor do they. But for them to be developing Virgin in a really positive way is great.
Okay, next question is from Australia, New Zealand. What is your most powerful daily habit?
I'm afraid I get to answer the same question as before. It's just finding the time to get fit, and then and that's something that I do every day. I mean, I think if I'm having a meeting with people, I'll always have a notebook. I'll always write down the key points that come out of the meeting and follow up and get them done. And I think too often people who run businesses, they'll go out, they'll meet their staff, staff will say things, they don't write them down, they don't follow up, and I think the business suffers. So, I'm on a Virgin Atlantic plane, I'll meet the passengers, I'll meet the staff, I'll write things down.
Right. Next question is from Vietnam. What's your advice to young people? Should they go to university or should they just jump right into business?
I think it depends what they want to do. If you want to be a pilot for Virgin Atlantic, we'd quite like you to have had had some training. If you want to be a lawyer, it's important to go to college and to become a lawyer. Or if you want to become an accountant. If you want to become an entrepreneur, if you are entrepreneurially minded, I don't think it matters to go to university. I mean, I left school at 15, and I think as long as you can add up, subtract, and multiply, you can, everything else will fall into place.
From Korea, do you have any suggestions on how the Amway business owners here today could improve the environment? It can't be a daunting task.
I think all of us need to